This is not a podcast for comfort. It's a podcast for clarity. In a culture flooded with noise, dangerous narratives, and emotional uncertainty, this space exists to examine what actually matters and what actually works. Here we question power itself, belief systems, and the assumptions most people inherit without inspection. Most people accept instead of dissect. This podcast is about correcting that. Welcome. Bienvenue. Welcome. Marhaban. Bienvenidos to the Magnificent Ones podcast. There are people who walk through life convinced that they missed their moment, not because they lack ability, but because no one ever told them that they were allowed to imagine one. This episode is not about motivation. It's about something much quieter. It is about recognition. Because some people weren't late to life. They were too busy surviving it. They were overcoming trauma. They had to raise themselves. Basic things that we may take for granted was a luxury they never experienced. We live in a culture obsessed with timelines. Graduate by this age. Succeed by that age. Know who you are early or be labeled lost. But timelines only make sense if everyone started with the same safety, the same support, the same freedom to explore, and many people didn't. Some grew up in environments where obedience mattered more than curiosity, where silence was praised, where your value was defined before you ever had the chance to discover it yourself. That doesn't erase potential, it postpones it. And it postpones expression. Let's dismantle a lie that has harmed many people. Formal education is not intelligence. It's access. It's timing. It's whether learning was safe or was it punished. Some of the most emotionally intelligent people in the world never had the luxury of focusing on school because their minds were busy monitoring danger, reading moods, adapting to instability. That's not a lack of intelligence. That's intelligence under pressure. There's a quiet intelligence that develops when you've had to listen inwardly because the outside world wasn't trustworthy. Call it intuition, call it discernment, call it wisdom earned early. Whatever you name, you give it. It doesn't disappear just because it went unrecognized. It simply waits. When someone decides later in life to return to learning, to grow, to self-invest, that's not weakness. That's a nervous system finally saying, I'm safe enough to expand now. Starting later doesn't mean dreaming smaller. It often means dreaming truer. Because of all of the experience that you've lived, you now have the perfect opportunity that most people don't get, which is to match what you're learning with the lived experience that you have. So where you are in life, sometimes you have to remind yourself that the idea of being behind is a lie. You are not behind. You were interrupted. You were interrupted by abuse. You were interrupted by fear dressed up as faith. Interrupted by responsibilities placed on you before you had a choice. And interruption is not the same as inability. You have the ability. You are simply not given the opportunity to execute and to live the life that you truly were meant to live. Confidence doesn't appear before action. It's built through action. Intelligence isn't proven by speed. It's proven by continuation. You know that something works, you keep on doing it because it works. If something fails, you go back to the drawing board. And belief doesn't arrive all at once. It grows every time you choose yourself. Quietly, imperfectly, but consistently. And that's what's important. The consistency. So tell yourself this. Potential doesn't expire. It doesn't vanish because it wasn't used early. It doesn't shrink because it went unnoticed. It waits for permission. And sometimes you are the first person who ever gives it. If this episode stirred something in you, not excitement, but recognition, that's not coincidence. That's possibility remembering itself. And it's yours. If this podcast challenged you, Good. Clarity often does. The point here isn't consensus or reassurance. It's to leave you more precise than when you arrived. Keep what sharpens your thinking. Discard the rest. But don't confuse familiarity with truth. If this conversation mattered, follow the podcast and share it selectively with people who value depth and not noise. Until next time, stay disciplined with your thinking, selective with your attention, and honest about what you're really optimizing for.